Everyone, this is the Next Day Podcast, episode 85 with Mikel, and
And Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So today, we're going to go into this episode with another three topic. Tanyka, what do we have in today's episode?
So today we're going to be talking about a Black man that is suing for discrimination. We're also going to be talking about a Canadian serial killer who was sentenced to life for murdering Indigenous women. I think they were cold cases, if I remember correctly, so it's kind of why it's a big deal. And then we're going to be kind of again following up on previous topics that we've talked about towards the end of last year. We're going to be talking about that Ontarians are without family doctors. That reaches 2.5 million. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So a Black man has filed an employment discrimination lawsuit against a hotel in Detroit, alleging the hotel only offered him a job interview after he changed the name on his resume, according to a copy of the lawsuit obtained by CNN. So he's literally out here doing the research to figure out what the issue is. So Dwight Jackson filed the lawsuit against the Shinola Hotel on July 3rd, alleging he was denied a job when he applied as Dwight Jackson, his name. But later he was offered an interview when he changed his name to John Jaborowski. So, doesn't sound like a Black name. The lawsuit alleges Jackson was denied a job in, quote, violation of Michigan Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. So between January and April of 2024, Jackson, who's 27 years old, applied to multiple positions at the Shinola Hotel in downtown Detroit, including a role in reception, which obviously he would be the face of the company, according to the lawsuit. On its website, Shinola Hotel says it is a quote-unquote luxury hotel. Jackson's attorney, John Marco, provided CNN with a copy of Jackson's resume, which details consistent employment, including previous roles as a front desk agent. So he has the experience. Um, and he did that at Detroit's Marriott, Westin Book Cadillac, and David Whitney Hotel, which used the words luxury and luxurious to describe their respective hotels. Quote, Mr. Jackson had applied for a job that he was eminently qualified for. This is said by his lawyer. He's a civil rights attorney. However, Shinola Hotel did not offer Jackson an interview. After getting no response to his initial job applications in April 2024, Jackson applied again, making one significant change to his application. That was his name. According to the lawsuit, Jackson applied to Shinola Hotel twice for similar positions under a more readily apparent Caucasian name with the alias John Jaborowski, using nearly identical resumes. So everything else is the same. It's
Hmm.
just his name that's different.
Yeah.
Um, the resumes have different dates of previous employment. He was offered multiple interviews within the same week, the lawsuit claims. The lawsuit alleges that, quote, Jackson established that the defendant's consideration of candidates was based on the racial appearance of the applicant's name. And again, it's not like I mean, I guess you don't see a lot of white Dwights, but they exist. There are white Dwights. There's actually nothing, quote unquote, Black about his name. I mean, anyone who's watched The Office, there's a Dwight who is white. I'm just
Hmm.
putting it out there. Like it's actually really ridiculous. Um, Quote, to be denied a job in 2024 in your hometown for the color of your skin goes beyond dollars and cents. It goes into the psyche of a person, said by the attorney. Sage Hospitality Group in Shinola Hotels is Shinola Hotels operating partner, so that's Sage Hospitality. Anna Stankoif, which is Sage Hospitality's senior corporate director of PR and brand communications, and she's a spokesperson for the hotel, said in an email, quote, we take this allegation very seriously and do not tolerate discrimination of any kind. We're committed to fostering an inclusive workplace where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and are dedicated to building a diverse workforce that reflects the community. I would be really curious to see, though, how many of their employees are people of color. I would like to know that. But anyways, according to Marco, the lawyer, Jackson attended the job interview and confronted the interviewer at Shinola Hotel. He revealed his real identity and expressed his belief that he was not given an interview initially because his name appeared more traditionally African American. Quote, shortly after Jackson underwent the interview process, he was informed that he was no longer a viable candidate for the position. I can take a wild guess and say he probably doesn't care to be a candidate anymore.
Mm,
Marco said employment discrimination is not unusual. Nope. He added, a civil rights attorney, he added, as a civil rights attorney, quote, we've seen a lot of discrimination in hiring, especially when it comes to the exclusion of minorities and individuals who have minority sounding names.
mm,
Like they would not hire me because of my name. So,
yeah,
apparently, I'm just saying. I don't think my name
well,
is necessarily black,
that's a
but
that's a that's a thing because like a lot of employees will hire a lot of people who have like names that they can't pronounce or a lot of or black names. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And again, this is like you can't discriminate because of someone's name,
Mm,
like because it doesn't, our name or our blackness
mm,
doesn't determine our dedication to the job. Like
mm-hmm.
it, those are completely two different things. But that, again, that's the whole point of why we have discrimination. It's because of people who do discriminate based on
Mm,
things like your name sounding too off of, ethnic or whatever. Um, so a recent study published by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that name bias is a prevalent issue in the hiring process. Researchers sent out identical resumes to 108 U.S. employers to analyze whether race and gender affected callback rates for job applications. Resumes with Black male and Black female names received the fewest callbacks. But,
wow.
hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
But Marco said proving cases of name bias is extremely challenging, and most of these cases never get off the ground due to a lack of evidence. Jackson's case is different, he said, because he applied twice for similar positions with nearly the exact same resume, and it yielded different results with when he used the alias. Marco said Jackson, quote, wants to shed a light on this problem that's not just isolated at the Shinola Hotel, not
Mm,
just isolated in Detroit or Michigan, but across the country, and let's face it, some parts of the world. Um, he wants to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. So
mm.
we'll see if there's any updates on that later on, but
Okay.
yeah, hope
Okay.
hope it works out for him.
Okay. All right.
Let's move on to the next. So,
Yeah.
a serial killer who preyed on Indigenous women in Canada will be serving decades in prison after a judge determined he was criminally responsible for four, quote, jarring and numbing murders in a verdict celebrated by family as justice being served.
Mhm.
Justice Glenn Joyal ruled on don't know exactly when this was done, but he ruled that Jeremy Skibicki, who cares, was guilty of first-degree murder in the killings of Rebecca Contois,
Mhm.
Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and an unidentified woman who was named Mosh Cody. Um, I'm gonna not say this correctly, so I'll just say what it's translated in English, Buffalo Woman, by Indigenous leaders. Joyelle rejected an argument from the defense that Skibicki's mental health had prevented him from understanding his actions, because of course he thinks it's because he's mentally ill. They always do.
Mhm.
Um, Joyelle said the quote mercilessness, graphic nature of the case and Shibicki's quote purely expressed racist views meant that the killings had an undeniable and profound impact on the province of Manitoba and laid bare the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. The packed gallery in the Winnipeg courtroom erupted into cheers when the oral verdict was delivered. Quote,
Mhm.
I just felt super happy. I wanted to cry, she said by Jordan Myron, who is Mercedes' sister, told reporters after the verdict was read. Quote, we fought for this for so long, he got what he deserved. On the eve of his trial, Shibiki admitted back in May to killing the women, but his lawyers argued he should be found not criminally responsible for murders because he had schizophrenia at the time.
Mhm.
Okay. Again, okay. Because yes, he has schizophrenia, but schizophrenia doesn't necessarily mean because you have a mental, or not even just that, but any mental illness, it doesn't mean that you're always can use that as a crutch. Sometimes you're just a horrible human being, even with your mental illness. And in this case, when they talk about his racist views, that is not your mental illness. That is who you are. That's who you've become.
Mhm.
So that's two different things. Um, Prosecutors argued that Chibiki's murders were racially motivated and he deliberately targeted vulnerable women in the city's shelter system, so he's even more of a monster. The
Mhm.
first degree murder verdict means Shibiki will serve a life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. Can we? Canada needs to do better.
Mhm.
Um, in that sense, the murders were first uncovered in 2022 when the remains of Rebecca Contoyas, a member of Crane River First Nation, were found in a dumpster, like
Mhm.
she's trash, near Shibiki's home.
Mhm.
Police later found more remains in a city landfill. Like, my God. Um, During police interrogations, Shibiki admitted to killing Contoyas and the three other women who were living in Winnipeg at the time. He cited white supremacist beliefs. Dr. Sahom Daz, who is a forensic psychiatrist from the United Kingdom,
Mhm.
testified for the defense, suggesting Shibiki suffered schizophrenia and was motivated by delusions. Don't do that.
Mhm.
Like, no, he
Mhm.
wasn't. Um, Including a belief he was on a mission from God. But Justice Joyal rejected Daz's conclusion and questioned the psychiatrist's credibility. Instead, he sided with Dr. Gray Shemowitz, the forensic psychiatrist who testified for the prosecution. In graphic testimony, Shemowitz told the court he believed Shibiki made up the alleged delusions and was probably motivated by homicidal necrophilia. Oh my God, this is getting worse. Okay.
Mhm.
You know what necrophilia is, right?
Kinda.
Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, so necrophilia is basically when someone will engage in some sort of sexual interactions with the dead body.
Mm.
That's what necrophilia is. Um, Joyelle told the court a full written decision, more than 150 pages long, would be released. The sentencing hearing for Shibiki will be held at a later date. For families of the victims, the case has also been a grim reminder of government inaction. The remains of Harris and Myron are believed to be buried in the Prairie Green landfill, so they probably haven't found them, based on what I'm hearing. And police initially said they lack the resources to search a privately owned facility, much of which is buried under tons of clay. In March, Canada pledged tens of millions of dollars to search landfill for the remains of the two Indigenous women, with work set to begin in the fall. So maybe that's been done. We'll do an update. Donna Bartlett, Mercedes, Myron's grandmother, told reporters outside the court she was happy that Shibiki would serve a prison sentence, saying, quote, "He got convicted of murder and I'm glad of that. I really am. Now the next step is to bring my girl home." And I hope they do. So we'll definitely do an update on that to see
Mhm.
if that was ever done. I know searching landfills can be really tedious and disgusting,
Yeah.
and it's a lot. It's not like a little pile of garbage, it's mountains.
Right.
Um, so I hope they're able to find them.
Mhm. Okay.
So that's that. Let's move on to the last topic. So
Mhm.
currently, there are now 2.5 million people in Ontario who don't have a family doctor, and this was set by the Ontario College of Family Physicians.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this last year.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 2.5 million at that
Mhm.
point, though. I think it's obviously risen.
Mhm.
Um, so that's an increase of more than 160,000 people since the last count was released. Probably at this time of this article was 6 months ago, but it's probably a little more than that now.
Mhm.
Um, and this was said by Dr. Jobin Vargruis, the incoming president of the college. He said, quote, "It's really concerning." And this was said by, I think he'd said in Brampton, a family physician said in an interview. So this is a doctor in Brampton who said this. Quote, "It
Mhm.
means that people are more likely to turn towards walk-in clinics, and I can attest the amount of plaintiffs we've seen who don't have a family doctor or who turn to walk-in clinics more so than anything else. It's it's actually alarming,
Mhm.
seeing that,
Mhm.
the amount of people that have to do that. Um, and also having to turn to urgent care and emergency departments where they will see a new person every time and lead to fragmented care. Um, adding that those patients are more likely to miss preventative cancer
Mhm.
screenings as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
The figures come from the latest data collected back in September of 2023
Right.
by research firm Inspire Primary Healthcare. The data is updated every 6 months and counts people as not having a family doctor if they are, quote, "uncertainly attached," meaning that they aren't rostered with an actual doctor or community health center that provides their care continuously. That includes people who get care from walk-in clinics and emergency departments, as well as people who don't use primary care at all,
Mm.
which means that we're also bogging down the system. Having a dedicated family doctor rather than relying on walk-in clinics is especially important when people have complex chronic issues.
Mhm.
He sees the family physician shortage firsthand. He said, as his full practice gets many calls from patients hoping to join. He also has to turn down requests from his own patients seeking care for their loved ones,
Mhm.
saying, quote, "Some of my newer colleagues who recently started practice, they close taking on new patients by 6 months because they are full." And that's the problem.
Mm.
What we've also seen is a ton of its doctors who are getting closer and closer to retirement and really worry that nobody's going to be able to take on their practice. The Physician College's CEO, DP Sir, acknowledged that the provincial government has invested in primary care teams and committed to reducing, quote, "unnecessary paperwork" to help ease the workload of family doctors, but said that needs to be expedited. So I guess not much has really changed since we last talked about this, where
Interesting.
that was concerned. quote, Ontario can implement changes with urgency so the impacts can be felt by family doctors and patients right away. Family physicians report spending up to, we talked about this before, but report spending up to 19 hours a week doing paperwork rather than seeing patients, which if you have a typical 40-hour week, half of that time is to admin stuff. Hannah Jensen, who is a spokesperson for Ontario Minister of Health, Sylvia Jones, said the province is, quote, leading the country with nearly 90% of Ontarians having a primary care provider and investing in multidisciplinary care teams and ways to tackle administrative burnout. At every step of the way, our government has consulted with the Ontario College of Family Physicians, and they have endorsed our government's action to connect more people to the primary care they need. The college also released the results of a separate study that found 670,000 people in Ontario need to travel more than 50 kilometers to see their family doctor. Which I thought like, I don't know, I know talking to my mom about this when we have talked about potentially changing family doctors at one point. Um, I thought that wasn't even allowed. Like, you're not allowed to change family doctors past a certain distance away from your home.
Interesting. You can't change
That's what my mom was telling
doctors?
me. This was before COVID, but that's what my mom was telling me because when we talked about it, like I'm okay with our family doctor, but
Right.
she kind of felt like she wasn't getting the proper care in the same way. Um,
Mm.
so she was more wondering like if she needed to change. Um, and that's what she was told. So
Wow.
I don't know if that's still the case.
Mm.
Because this maybe was probably over 5 years ago. Uh, yeah,
Can
definitely.
you do your research on that, like on Google, see if that's a thing, or is it just like you had to like find out from your family doctor?
I think in my mom's case, I think she called um somebody and probably may have been
Hmm.
they know that part of the government, like the deals with the OHIP and stuff like that. Um, so I think she actually called and spoke to somebody about it, and that's how she found out. But again, I don't know if that's changed. Maybe you're able to now. Maybe because with the need, maybe that's maybe something that's been lax now. But I just remember at the time that's was something she was told because she's like, okay, then what do I do? Because in Ajax, there's not a lot of family doctors to choose from. Or
Right.
even maybe Pickering was a little better, but I think my mom wanted to try to stick to Ajax.
Right.
There's not a lot of family doctors in Ajax.
Hmm.
There's ours. There's maybe one or two more. That's it. Um, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Mm.
Um, so that research was conducted by um Upstream Lab at St. Michael's Hospital in
Mhm.
Toronto.
Mhm.
Our data shows that without a family doctor nearby, patients may need to rely on hospital emergency departments more frequently and do not get screened for cancer as often. This was said by Dr. Archana Gupta, who's a family physician and researcher with Upstream Lab, said in the news release. So that's basically that. But yeah, like I can tell like when you go to like the hospital and you're in the ER and you're just or the emergency department and you're just like there are people here you can just kind of look at them and see they're just coming here because maybe they have nowhere else to go.
Mm.
And all of that does is, again, like I said before, bog down the
Mhm.
system. You have longer wait times. There's usually maybe only one or two ER doctors
Right.
that have to go to the entire emergency department.
Mm.
So it's a lot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
it for me.
All right. So this ends episode 85 of the Next Tape podcast. The Next Tape podcast is available on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanyka.
Next Take Podcast off hotpage.io. Link in the show notes.
And where else are we at? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's okay. Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter and TikTok at Next Take Pod.
And you can contact us on our email at mikeltanika@gmail.com. That is mikeltanika@gmail.com. So this was a hot topic heavy episode. Do you want to tell people what we talked about during this episode?
Yep, we talked about a Black man who is suing for discrimination. We talked about the serial killer who was sentenced for murdering Indigenous women. And we talked about the rise of people who are without their general practitioner, or AKA family doctors.
Okay. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Anything else you want to say, Tanika, or to the people, or no?
Well, the only thing I'll say is that we do have one more episode, I believe, for our Women's History Month. So that's going to be coming out on Thursday.
All right. Okay. All right. So we'll see you guys then on Thursday. I'm Mikel, and
I'm Tanyka.
we're out until Thursday. All right.
Okay.
See you guys then again. All right. Peace, guys.
Bye.